Hey, how you doing today, folks? In today's video, I wanted to discuss the plot leak a little bit, or at least review a part of the plot leak, because I have referenced it in several of my videos, and I don't want people to get the wrong impression. I don't want people to think that I believe the entire leak is true. So I actually want to review each one of the episodes and discuss and go over what I think is true and what I think is false. And some of the things that I hope does not happen, and some of the things I actually do want to see happen next season. So I'm going to go over the first episode and discuss it section by section and tell you guys what sounds true. And to be honest with you, the first episode seems pretty plausible because the show has set itself up and put itself in position for these things to happen. So a lot of it does seem reasonable, but there are definitely some things in this leak that I think is just completely made up and I really don't see happening. So let's begin with the first episode. It says the White Walkers are marching south on the wall. Now that seems pretty obvious. The White Walkers at some point have to get through this wall to push the story forward. The whole series has been building up towards this big battle with basically mankind fighting the others. And now that there's really nothing left up north for them to do, now that Craster's dead, there's no babies for them to take and turn into White Walkers. The Thens, the Wildlings, pretty much all the people up there have been killed off or brought south, so there's no one up there for them to turn into whites. They really have no purpose to be up there still, so they definitely have to get south to the wall and get through it to have this big war start. So I definitely see that happening at some point. I don't know about episode 1, but it's definitely going to happen next season. Then it says, Bran crosses the wall back into Westeros and meets with Dolores Edd, the new Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. And if I mispronounce his name, I apologize. And that also seems pretty reasonable. We know Bran and Mira is right outside the wall at the weirwood tree, and at some point he has to get back south to get safe. With just him and Mira out there, he really has no protection against the White Walkers, which we know are going to be approaching pretty fast. Considering he has that mark on his arm, the Night's King knows where he's at all times. And Bran knows that. After what happened at the Three-Eyed Raven's cave, he should be well aware of what's actually going on. But he may be smart enough to realize that that mark on his arm could dispel the magic in the wall. So he could potentially send Mira to get help at Castle Black and hopefully get Jon up there to protect him as he's outside the wall. That way he doesn't bring it down. But it's hard to say. He may not have time to sit up there and wait. He may just pass through it regardless of what might happen. So that's still to be seen, to be determined. And it also says Sansa and Jon have an argument about what to do with the northern houses who betrayed them by fighting with the Boltons. Sansa and Lyanna Mormont want to give their lands to loyal supporters, but Jon refuses to hold the Karstark and Umber children responsible. Jon does it his way and basically tells the others to deal with it because he's not going to rule the North the way it's always been. Now that's pretty reasonable. We know Jon has always kind of done things his own way, and there's no reason for him to start changing now. I definitely think he's going to stay true to himself and want to unite everybody still. He doesn't want to kill people, for no real reason, especially kids that may not have had anything to do with their parents opposing him. He's probably going to want to give these kids a chance to reclaim their houses and become loyal to Jon and fight in a war. But I could also see Sansa having a problem with that because they are the children of those who oppose Jon. So I could see it actually going both ways, why she'd have a problem with it and why Jon would just want to let them keep their lands. So I give that about a 50-50 chance of happening. And we've seen 2 new kids on set. Well, at least a girl, she could be passed off as a teenager. She's probably in her 20s, but we see a little boy as well. So those 2 new actors that are filming season 7 could potentially be the Karstark and Umber children. So I wouldn't doubt seeing them film a scene similar to what they're saying here in this leak. It says at the end of the episode, Daenerys and company arrive at Dragonstone. She goes into the old war room with the table map of Westeros and turns to Tyrion and says, "Shall we begin?" Now that's also pretty plausible. We definitely know Daenerys and company is going to arrive at Dragonstone or King's Landing very soon. Her entire story has been her wanting to get to Westeros and the King's Landing to fight for the Iron Throne, which she believes is hers, which she believes she has every right to be sitting on. And at the end of season 6, we saw her and her supporters and her fleet and her army head towards Westeros. So we definitely know she's going to get there very soon. Episode 1, I'm not really sure, because a report came out back in September, or maybe even before that, way before the plot leak came out, that Daenerys was going to get into a battle at sea against Euron, and that's when he was going to capture Yara and kill one of the sand snakes. So if that happens, I'm not sure if they're going to have enough time to show her arrive at Dragonstone as well, because they're going to need the first episode next year to set up all the main characters and let you know in which direction their story's going to go. So I don't know if they'd have time to show her fight Euron and arrive at Dragonstone at the same time, unless the battle took place very close to Dragonstone, or if it was a very quick battle. We know Euron's building 1,000 ships, so I'm not sure if he had all those made in time to get out there and fight Daenerys before she arrives at Dragonstone. But he could possibly send out a small fleet to try and flank her or attack the rear to just take out some of her forces, or at least try to kill or capture Theon and Yara. So I could definitely see that taking place. And we know she's definitely going to arrive at Dragonstone at some point in Season 7. There's already been a bunch of photos that have came out that have shown her and her forces arrive on a beach that appears to be Dragonstone. Just by the looks at some of the set pieces with the sharp and razor-looking rocks, that's pretty much what Dragonstone is. So I'm pretty confident that's where she's at in those photos. So most of the plot leak for episode 1 seems pretty legit. The story's kind of set up for all these things to take place, so I could definitely see all this happening. But some of the other episodes, there are some things that I definitely don't think could take place. But in this video, I just wanted to go over the first episode and discuss it. I want to get some feedback from you guys, because I know some of you think some of the plot leak is true, or some of it sounds like it's pretty plausible, and I'm wondering if what's in this episode is some of that stuff. So comment below, tell me what you think about this episode. Does this seem plausible to you, or does this seem completely made up as well? Thanks for listening, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Hey, how you doing tonight, folks? In this video, I wanted to continue my review of the plot leak, and in this video, I'm going to go over episode 2. So I'm going to read the entire episode, and then I'll break down each section of it and talk about what I believe and what I don't believe, and the type of things that should happen or I don't see will be likely at all to happen. So let's begin. In episode 2, the plot leak states, Jon gets a raven from Daenerys, telling all the Northern Lords to meet her on Dragonstone to parley. Jon and Davos decide to go ask for some of the dragonglass stockpiled on Dragonstone. Sansa is left in charge of Winterfell, and Jon leaves Ghost behind too. Dorne and Highgarden get sacked by the Lannisters early in the season. Jaime confronts Olenna Tyrell at Highgarden. She tells Jaime everything about how she and Littlefinger poisoned Joffrey. Jaime allows her to drink poison and kill herself before being captured. Euron's fleet destroys Yara Greyjoy's and takes her prisoner. Theon escapes by jumping overboard and is rescued by other Ironborn. Euron Greyjoy attacks Dorne as well, killing 2 sand snakes and capturing Ellaria. Okay, so let's start with the first part of this. It says, Jon gets a raven from Daenerys, telling all the Northern Lords to meet her on Dragonstone to parley. Jon and Davos decide to go to ask for some of the dragonglass stockpiled on Dragonstone. Okay, now this seems pretty likely. We definitely know Jon and Daenerys were going to meet up at some point in the show. And with all the photos that have been leaked as they're filming Season 7, we already see that that's definitely going to take place next season. So that definitely makes sense that Jon and Dany meet up with each other and discuss and strategize about how, Dany's going to get this Iron Throne and what Jon's role is going to be in that. Is he going to stand by her and help her, or is he going to oppose her? But another thing that I thought of before this leak even came out, as soon as I thought that Dany could be on Dragonstone, I immediately thought, well, if she does ask Jon to come there, he definitely needs to see about all the dragonglass that's there. Because we know Stannis already said that there is plenty there to be mined. Basically, as much as you could get out of there is there. So it seems like there could be an unlimited amount of dragonglass at Dragonstone. So if Jon has an opportunity to go there, he might as well try and get some while he's there. So that definitely makes sense that he would want to do so, because he definitely knows he needs it, because he lost all the dragon glass that he had back at Hardhome when he tried to go back into the little shed to, rescue it. That's when the White Walker came in and attacked him, and he didn't have a chance to get it. He basically had to leave it behind, or he would have died trying to save it. So the first part of that makes a lot of sense, and there's already a bunch of photos that have came out to back that up. Nothing about the dragon glass yet, but we can assume while Jon's there, he's definitely going to want to get some. And it says Sansa is left in charge of Winterfell and leaves Ghost behind too. Now, just by the photos that have came out, that seems to be true so far, because we haven't seen Sansa in any of the photos with Jon and Davos at Dragonstone. So it doesn't appear like she left Winterfell at all. And we know that they really don't use the direwolves in too many episodes. So that's a way for them to leave Ghost out of the equation and not have to explain why he's not in every single episode. It would make sense for Jon to leave Ghost behind with Sansa to give her some extra protection while he's not there to look over her. So that kind of kills two birds with one stone. It gives Sansa the protection that she needs while Jon's gone, and all the scenes that they're going to be showing Jon with Daenerys, they're not going to have to explain why Ghost isn't there. It'll just be known that he's back in Winterfell with Sansa. So I could see why they would do that. And it also says Dorne and Highgarden get sacked by the Lannisters early in the season. Jaime confronts Olenna Tyrell at Highgarden. She tells Jaime everything about how she and Littlefinger poisoned Joffrey. Jaime allows her to drink poison and kill herself before being captured. Okay, we definitely know by the photos and all the reports that the Lannisters definitely sack Highgarden next year. There's plenty of photos to kind of back that up. There's a new castle that they've already been showing that already has the Lannister flag planted at the top. So if this is not Casterly Rock, then it is indeed Highgarden, and the Lannisters definitely won that battle. And there was also a new report that came out today that I haven't had a chance to talk about yet, but I'm going to talk about right now, is that the Tarleys actually are not going to be fighting with the Tyrells next year. They're actually going to turn their back on the Tyrells and fight with the Lannisters. And I haven't noticed it in any of the photos that I have, but it said in a report that there was a photo that showed the Tarleys marching side by side with the Lannisters. So I haven't seen that photo yet to confirm it, but that's pretty damn interesting. So that just makes the Lannisters' forces that much larger, and they'd have another great commander on their side with Randall Tarley. So that could definitely change the entire dynamic of what's going to happen in that battle when the Lannisters do go up against Daenerys and all her forces. So that's pretty interesting. So keep an eye out for that. If the Tarleys turn their back on the Tyrells, that could really, really spice shit up next year. But it says the Lannisters also sacked Dorne, which I don't think that's likely. I really don't have a lot of information to support why I believe that, but we already know the Lannisters are involved in two big battles next season. When they take over Highgarden, and as they're marching back, they get attacked by Dany and the Dothraki and the Unsullied. So I don't know if they'd have the Lannisters in 3 battles next year, especially with none of those battles being against, Jon Snow and company. I don't really see the Lannisters going to Dorne and attacking Dorne as well. But I could be wrong. They could be trying to just completely eradicate the whole Dorne storyline, because they know they completely screwed that part of the story up, and they know fans have been outraged about how they made those characters look on the screen compared to how they are in the books. So this could be the opportunity that they want to take to just completely get rid of that storyline. So I guess I could see them wanting to do that, which would also explain what else it says is going to happen in this episode when Euron attacks Dorne and he kills 2 of the Sand Snakes. That could be them just trying to wipe that whole part of the story out. Which, personally, I hope they do. I didn't like Dorne at all, so to see that part of the story gone just makes me happy. I do not want to waste any more time with scenes with the Sand Snakes or Alaria. So the faster they wipe that part of the story out, the happier I will be. I know some of you probably disagree, but this is just how I feel. Now, another thing that I didn't really like is how it says Olenna Tyrell drinks poison to kill herself. I could kind of see her doing that, but she's been such a great figure in the show, and she's been so tough. I just don't see her going out like that by committing suicide. I definitely could see why she'd want to tell Jaime she helped poison Joffrey, just to kind of stick that knife in his side, because, Jaime's sister murdered her 2 grandkids. So I could see why she'd want to let the Lannisters know, okay, you guys might have hurt me there, but guess what? I killed Joffrey, so fuck you. So I could see her wanting them to know that she's the one that did that. But I don't see her wanting to kill herself to go out like that. I think she'd go out in a lot tougher way than that. But I could be wrong as well, you know what I mean? Who knows how she dies? I don't know. I wouldn't want to see her go out by suicide. I'd like to see her go out, in a much more honorable way, basically. So give me your thoughts on that. But it says Euron's fleet destroys Yara Greyjoys, takes her prisoner. Theon escapes by jumping overboard and is rescued by other Ironborn. Okay, we knew at some point Euron was definitely going to go toe-to-toe with his niece and nephew. The last time we saw him, he said he wanted to murder both of them for taking off with his ships when he became king. So we knew at some point they were going to face off. And there's already been reports that have came out a long time ago before the plot leak that Euron in fact does attack Yara and Theon, and he does capture Yara and kill 1 sand snake. But now in the leak it's saying he kills 2 sand snakes. So that could be interesting to see how that actually plays out as well. And there's photos already that have been released as well that shows Theon getting his ass beat by some Ironborn. So I can only think of 1 or 2 reasons why Ironborn would be beating him up. And the first reason is because he allowed Yara to get captured. He didn't try hard enough to save her. Or 2, those could be Euron's men. And they're beating the shit out of him before they take him to Euron. So this all really starts to make sense when you see the photos. So that's episode 2. Tell me what you guys think about that episode. How much of it do you believe to be true? Or does all of it sound like bullshit to you? Let me know. There's already been a lot of photos that have came out after this leak that is backing up a lot of this stuff. It may not go down exactly the way this leak is saying it, but it's going to be pretty damn close, I think. So far, the leak seems to be pretty legit. So comment below and tell me how you guys feel about this. Does episode 2 seem true to you, or is it just completely fan fiction? Thanks for listening, guys. And I don't know if I'm going to do a video tomorrow or not, with tomorrow being Thanksgiving. It depends how my day goes, how busy I am. But maybe later tomorrow night, I may do episode 3, so just keep your eyes peeled for that. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for the support, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Hey, how you doing today, folks? In today's video, I'm going to continue my review of the plot leak. And in this video, I'm going to actually go over episode 3. So what I'll do is I'll read the entire leaked episode, and then I'll break down each section of it and discuss what sounds like it's going to happen, what has been proved in some photos, and then I'll talk about what seems like it could be made up or is not actually going to happen next season. Okay, so here we go. Episode 3. It says, Jon and Davos arrive on Dragonstone and meet Tyrion on the beach. Tyrion brings them to meet Daenerys. Dany demands Jon bend the knee, which he refuses. Jon instead tells her about the White Walker threat, but she doesn't believe him. Davos tries to tell her about Jon's resurrection, but Jon dismisses it. Tyrion steps in to say Jon's a good guy and definitely not insane. Dany respects Jon immediately, although Jon doesn't return to sentiment. Jon meets Theon on the beach and promises to spare his life for what he did helping Sansa escape. Arya encounters her old direwolf Nymeria on the way back to Winterfell. Jorah and Sam meet in Old Town and find a cure for grayscale. Bran arrives at Winterfell and Meera returns home to the Neck. Okay, so that's episode 3, so let's break down each section of it and discuss it. It says Jon and Davos arrive on Dragonstone and meet Tyrion on the beach. Now, there's no way for me to dispute this. Photos have already came out that show this exactly happening, exactly as it states in the leak. There's been several photos that show Jon and Davos meeting Tyrion on the beach, surrounded by the Dothraki, and in the photo you actually see Jon and Tyrion shaking hands. So that's definitely going to happen next season. It says Tyrion brings them to meet Daenerys, which we definitely know happens as well. We've already seen in the leaked photos, Jon and Daenerys in several different photos, meeting each other, walking, talking, stuff like that. Dany demands Jon to bend the knee, which he refuses to do. Now, there's been no evidence of this. I'm not really sure why she would do this. You think Tyrion would have already told, her about Jon? If she, in fact, sends the Raven out, you think her and Tyrion would be talking about Jon as he's getting ready to arrive, and you think Tyrion would be like, well, he's a good guy. So you think maybe she wouldn't do that, but, Dany's she's on a mission to claim this throne as her own, so I can definitely see her wanting everybody to respect her. And it says, Jon instead tells her about the White Walker threat, but she doesn't believe him. Now, at first, when I first read this leak, probably a month ago or however long ago it came out, I found this kind of hard to believe at first. And not just out of everybody, just, specifically Dany. Because she has these 3 large dragons, so I kind of thought, well, why would she find it hard to, believe that there'd be other creatures out there? But when you think about it, no one believes this threat. Pretty much everybody that, Jon's ever talked to about it, or anybody's ever discussed it with, they've all pretty much dismissed it as just, a story or a fairy tale. So, Dany may be one of those people as well who think, that's kind of ludicrous. So, we'll definitely have to see how that plays out and see if it's actually true that Jon has to go capture one of these to prove it to everybody, which you'd hope he wouldn't have to do, but sometimes to get somebody's attention, you can't just tap him on the shoulder. You got to hit him over the head with a hammer. So he may have to go to that extent to prove that there is actually White Walkers. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. It says Davos tries to tell her about Jon's resurrection, but Jon dismisses it. Tyrion steps in to say Jon's a good guy and definitely not insane. Now that part I definitely believe. I definitely think Tyrion would say that Jon's a good guy. I assume Tyrion would already have said this to Dany as Jon's traveling there to meet her. So you think by the time Dany and Jon met, she wouldn't ask him to bend a knee? You think she'd just pull him to the side and have a discussion with him about her plans and intentions? And then Jon could tell her about, what he wants to do? So you think she could avoid having to ask him to bend a knee, but, whatever, whatever she wants to do, it's up to her. She's got the larger army and a big-ass dragon, so she can tell pretty much anybody to do whatever she wants. But Tyrion and Jon have a pretty good relationship. And I know some people don't believe that because they didn't spend a whole lot of time together. But if you remember their last conversation together, it showed me at least of how much their relationship and bond actually grew over the time that they spent together, traveling to the Wall and being at the Wall together. And when Tyrion and Jon first met, Jon kind of had his guard up, considering Tyrion was a Lannister. He probably assumed he was an asshole like the rest of them. He probably assumed he was an asshole like Jaime. If you remember when Jaime and Jon first met, Jaime was pretty much disrespecting Jon and kind of treating him like a child. So Jon probably assumed Tyrion would be just like his brother, like an asshole. But Jon and Tyrion's last conversation together was actually a pretty good conversation, and actually let me know how they felt about each other at that time. And when Tyrion said he wanted to piss off the top of the Wall, when he was actually up there doing that and he turned around to leave, Jon actually said, "I'm sorry to see you leave, Lannister." And Tyrion said, "It's either me or this cold, and it doesn't appear to be going anywhere." And Jon asked him if he was going to stop at Winterfell on his way south. And Tyrion said, "I expect I will. Gods know there aren't many feather beds between here and King's Landing." And Jon said, "Well, if you see my little brother Bran, tell him I miss him. Tell him I would visit if I could." And Tyrion said, "Of course. Take care, Snow." Then they shook hands, and Jon said, "Farewell, my lord." So at this point, Jon was no longer talking down on Tyrion, and Tyrion was no longer calling Jon a bastard. Jon actually said, "Farewell, my lord," and he said, "Take care, Snow," and they shook hands. So they definitely grew fond of each other by this time. And Tyrion, he actually saved Jon at the Wall. After Jon broke Gren's nose as they were training, Jon was putting the training swords away, and that's when Gren and a couple other guys of the Night's Watch rolled up on Jon and was starting to rough him up, and they actually acted like they were going to kill him. But Tyrion stepped in and said, "You guys have these very distinctive faces that I will remember, basically faces I could tell my sister about and pretty much have you guys killed." And that's when the guys took off running, and I think ever since then, Jon kind of respected Tyrion for stepping in and saving him like that when he didn't have to. He went out of his way to back Jon up there. So I could definitely see from here on out Tyrion backing Jon up again. And Jon, he really has no reason to not like Tyrion at this point either. I think they're going to have a very good relationship from here on out throughout the rest of the series. Because Tyrion's went out of his way to be respectful to the Starks several different times. Tyrion saved Jon. He saved Lady Catelyn, even though he was a prisoner of hers, and she was taking him to the Eyrie to stand trial. They were ambushed, and Tyrion actually saved her life when he could have just let her die, and he could have tried to escape after that. Tyrion built that saddle for Bran when he didn't have to, but Bran respects cripples and bastards because he's always felt like one. Being an imp, that's how people have always treated him. And Tyrion was good to Sansa. Sansa was forced into marriage with him, and Tyrion could have treated her any way he wanted. He could have treated her like a whore if he wanted to. She was there in King's Landing with no one to protect her or for her to tell anyone how she was being treated, but Tyrion respected her as a Stark, as a young lady, and he didn't do anything to disrespect her in any way. So I'm sure once Jon and Sansa met back up and Sansa told Jon about her time at King's Landing and everything that happened, when she told Jon that she was forced into marriage with Tyrion, that he treated her good and, didn't take advantage of her in any way, I think Jon would only grow fonder of Tyrion. So I could see them having a real good relationship. And I'm actually excited to see that, because in Season 1, some of my favorite scenes were between Jon and Tyrion. The dialogue they had together, I liked a lot. So I'm looking forward to seeing more scenes with Jon and Tyrion together. But let's move forward. It says Dany respects Jon immediately, although Jon doesn't return the sentiment. And now I could see why Dany would respect Jon immediately. Jon just kind of gives off that vibe, and he kind of looks the role like an honorable guy. Not sure why Jon wouldn't want to return the sentiment. Maybe it's because she demanded that he bend the knee. I'm not really sure. You think Tyrion would, back Dany up to Jon and say, hey, she's a good woman. She wants to rule the right way. She wants to free the slaves. She wants to, treat the people good. So I'm not sure why Jon wouldn't return the sentiment. So I guess we'll have to see how that actually plays out and how he feels about her. He still doesn't know he's a Targaryen and related to her. So it'll be interesting to see how they, present that dynamic on the screen. It says Jon meets Theon, promises to spare his life for what he did when he helped Sansa escape from Ramsay Bolton. And this has already been proven in photos as well. We see Jon and Theon on the beach together. Jon has him grabbed up around his collar, and it looks like he's screaming in his face. More than likely for what Theon did at Winterfell, when he captured Winterfell and basically held everybody there hostage, and he killed Sir Roderick by executing him and chopping his head off. Then he killed 2 of those farm boys who he passed off as, Rickon and Bran. So Jon's definitely going to want to punish Theon in some kind of way for doing that. Even though he helped Sansa, what Theon did was still pretty disrespectful. He turned his back on Robb, and he basically spit on everybody at Winterfell. So I could see Jon wanting to punish him in some sort of way, beyond just screaming in his face. I know some of you disagree, but that's just how I feel. And I like Theon as a character, but he's just one of those push-around type of guys, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Jon slap him around a little bit. But it says Arya encounters her old direwolf Nymeria on the way to Winterfell. Now, there's no way for me to dispute that. There's really no way for any evidence of that to come out, because Nymeria is added in post-production with CGI, so we're probably not ever going to see a leaked photo of them together. But I actually hope this happens. We haven't seen Nymeria and Arya together since Season 1. And if you know anything about Game of Thrones, if something didn't die on screen, it's more than likely still alive. So I'm pretty sure Nymeria is still out there running around somewhere. And I would definitely love to see Arya and Nymeria reunite and be together again. I like seeing the direwolves in the show. I know they don't use them a lot, but this would be a good chance for them to bring one back into the fold and back into the fight. So hopefully that does happen. It says Jorah and Sam meet in Old Town and find a cure for grayscale. Now, according to Watchers on the Wall, this definitely happens next season. I don't know who their sources are, but they seem to be pretty damn accurate. Almost everything they come out with seems to come true. And they said in a report that we will definitely see this happen. And by the look at the photos, you see Jorah back with Daenerys. And she told him not to return until he got cured. So I'm pretty sure he would do just that. And since he's back around her, I'm assuming that he did get cured, because he probably wouldn't want to return and, risk spreading grayscale. So, and plus he has both of his arms, so he definitely just didn't go, drastic and cut one of them off. So this is likely. This probably does actually happen. I'm sure Jorah gets cured. Is it by Sam or not? I don't know. We know Sam's at the Citadel training. We know Jorah is the son of Sam's old Lord Commander at Castle Black. The Lord Commander saved Sam's life, so I'm sure Sam would want to help Jorah if given the chance. So that's pretty likely, I think. And it says Bran arrives at Winterfell and Mira returns home to the Neck. Now, I can only assume Bran arrives at Winterfell because he's right outside the wall. He knows the White Walker threat is pretty damn big right now, and they're closing in on him. He has the mark. They know where he's at. So I could definitely see him wanting to get safe. And Watchers on the Wall also reported that we're going to get the Stark reunion next year between Bran, Arya, and Sansa. So until they prove me wrong with any of their, leaked information, I can only believe what they say because they haven't proven me wrong yet. There's no photos to confirm this yet, but I'm going to assume that this does happen. And I guess Mira probably would return home to the Neck because now that Bran would be safe, there'd really be no reason for her to stick around. So I could see her going home. And hopefully when she goes home, she talks to her dad. Hopefully Bran says, "Hey Mira, when you get home, tell your dad I need to speak to him. I saw him in one of my visions and I'm going to need him to help me confirm Jon's parentage. He was there. He probably knows some stuff. And Howland Reed may even know where the sword Dawn actually is. I know it was said that Ned returned it back to its home, but you never really know, man. They could have did something else with that sword. It could be in the crypts. I mean, who really knows? Howland Reed could have it stashed somewhere. So hopefully Howland Reed does come into the play and, he spices shit up in some way. He reveals some information that we've been wondering, and, if they bring Howland Reed into the story, I think things could get pretty damn interesting. So hopefully when Mira goes home, she tells her dad to, stop by Winterfell so she could talk to Bran. Or he could talk to Bran, sorry. So that's it for episode 3. 90% of it seems like it's probably true, and the other 10% just hasn't been confirmed by any photos yet, but so far the first 3 episodes seem to be pretty damn legit. Most of it has been confirmed with photos, so I have no reason to dispute it, really. But give me your guys' thoughts. I know some of you still think all this is completely made up, so tell me what part of this you think is made up. I mean, I show you proof in a lot of these photos, but some of you think and interpret those photos in a different way than me, but I take them at face value, and what it looks like in those photos is exactly what it's saying in this leak. So to me, it seems to be true so far. So comment below, tell me what you think about this stuff. I hope you guys have a good Thanksgiving today. Wasn't sure if I was going to put a video out or not, but I already ate dinner. I'm taking a break from football. I wanted to get something out to you guys to thank you guys for supporting me and leaving nice comments and liking my stuff and subscribing. I appreciate you guys. So happy Thanksgiving to you. I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Hey, how you doing today, folks? In this video, I'm going to continue my breakdown of the plot leak, and this is going to be episode 4. So what I'll do is I'll read the entire leaked episode, then I'll go back and break down each section of it and talk about what's been confirmed with photos and reports from websites like Watchers on the Wall. Then I'll talk about what's likely or not likely to happen. So let's begin. It says Arya arrives at Winterfell. Dany torches a few Westerosi lords with her dragons, which include Sam Tarly's father and brother. Tyrion dissuades Dany from attacking King's Landing directly with her dragons, for fear of killing lots of civilians. Jaime and Bronn and a Lannister army are ambushed, probably mid-season, by Dany, the Dothraki, and her dragons, as they are marching back from Highgarden. The Lannister army is then defeated, and Jaime is almost killed by the dragons, only to be saved by Bronn. Jon realizes the only way to get Westeros to work together to fight the White Walkers is to get a live specimen of a White to show to everyone. So let's go back to the beginning and start breaking this stuff down. It says Arya arrives at Winterfell. I absolutely believe Arya will make it back to Winterfell. I think most of us have been waiting for this day for quite some time now, because personally, I got bored with her story in Bravos. To me, it felt like they were just treading water with her there, as they were setting up other stories, waiting for the right time to be able to bring Arya back into the mix. But thankfully, while she was there, she did learn how to defend herself and become a faceless assassin. So we last saw Arya at the Twins, when she killed Walder Frey and his 2 sons. So she already has covered a lot of ground on her way back home, which is where she told Jack and Agar she was going. And with Arya's current location, I think it leaves her story with many possibilities and opportunities to go in several interesting directions. So for those of you that got bored with her story in Bravos like I did, I don't think there's any reason to worry, because from here on out, I think Arya's story arc can be one of the most interesting ones if done right. And I have been looking forward to seeing her back in Westeros. That way her story can start to intertwine with some of my other favorite characters. And where she is currently at on the map, I think we are about to start seeing just that. And I think Arya is about to run into several characters that are still on her hit list, making her story one of the most anticipated ones to see next season. At least that's the way I feel. And you can see in my other video that I made about Arya, some of these reunions she will more than likely have as she heads home. So I definitely believe this part of the leak is true. But this is one of the more obvious things to guess, so let's move on. And it says, Dany torches a few Westerosi lords with their dragons, which include Sam Tarly's father and brother. Now, this part of the leak is beginning to appear like it's going to come true as well. Originally, I didn't believe it, but photos are coming out that show Randall Tarly's forces fighting side by side with the Lannisters, as they are defending themselves from the Dothraki, the Unsullied, and then Dany's dragons. And I have yet to see any evidence of Daenerys being there filming this scene, nor have I seen any photos of them setting up any green screens on this battlefield to film the dragon scenes. But it is still early in the filming process, and everything else that is building up for this dragon attack is being confirmed from the leaked photos. So I have no reason to dispute that the rest of this won't happen. But it looks like Randall Tarly isn't going to have that much of an effect on the current main story. We may not even have time to see him look for Sam in the Sword Heartsbane, because it appears like he's going to get wiped out pretty quick. But I wonder what this means for Sam. If his father and brother do die, then does that leave him the rights to Hornhill? Now, I don't really see Sam living there, but I don't see him going back to Castle Black either. Once that wall comes down, Castle Black and the Night's Watch are going to cease to exist, which you can see in this other video I made about the two. So let me know what you guys think about what the future of Sam's story could be when his father and brother die. But let's move forward. It says, Tyrion dissuades Dany from attacking King's Landing directly with dragons for fear of killing lots of civilians. Now, there's been no evidence of this yet, but I can see why Tyrion would advise this. Even though I think Tyrion hates King's Landing and the people living there, if Daenerys wants to continue to win over the hearts and minds of the people, then she certainly can't destroy everyone living where she wants to rule. And I don't think Dany wants to have the same reputation her father had either, which is burning everyone in sight and be remembered as the Mad Queen. Deep down, Tyrion has a good heart anyway, so I think it's obvious he wouldn't want to see innocent people get cremated. But it also says Jaime and Bronn and the Lannister army are ambushed mid-season by Dany, the Dothraki, and her dragons. And while Jaime, Bronn, and their forces are marching back from High Garden, that's when the Lannister army gets defeated, and Jaime is almost killed by the dragons, but Bronn comes in and saves the day. So this battle appears to be taking place in the leaked photos, but I have yet to see Jaime or Bronn in any kind of trouble. But one thing I'm wondering is, when Dany defeats the Lannister army and torches the Tarlys, what is she going to do with Jaime and Bronn? When Bronn saves Jaime, is she just going to allow them to get away? Or will she then take both of them prisoner and use them to negotiate with Cersei? Personally, I would love to see Tyrion talk Jaime into joining Daenerys' cause and support her. But obviously, Jaime is still knee-deep in love with Cersei, so it may not be likely. But it's just something I would love to see. I'd love to see Jaime and Tyrion back together. But I wonder if Jaime and Bronn are able to escape somehow, though. Even though their forces are defeated, and they now may be surrounded by Dothraki and the Unsullied, is there a way for them to escape? I think this scene could get pretty damn crazy. But let's go over the last part of this episode where it says Jon realizes the only way to get Westeros to work together to fight the White Walkers is to get a live specimen of a white to show to everyone. Now, there hasn't been much evidence that they are filming this scene yet, but in Northern Ireland, they are beginning to create a set with massive green screens and a frozen pond with an island in the center, which is where Jon and his team of inglorious bastards could get attacked by the Night's King and the reported 300 whites as they're trying to get south of the wall while they've been up there hunting Nazis. And I know this part of the leak got the most hate, it seems. People thought this was too unrealistic or too dangerous or too stupid, etc. And those people might be right, but I think once again, if done right, I think they could pull this off and make this mission one of the most intense and high-stakes situations during Season 7. But one thing about this group of characters Jon's going to take with him, I think Gendry may actually be a liability. He may know how to make swords, but we know he has no idea how to swing one, which Arya made very clear when she made fun of him seasons ago. So taking Gendry on his mission is pretty damn risky. Even if he has his father's warhammer, if he has no idea how to swing the thing, taking him to try to capture some whites is pretty dangerous. Taking this small team is risky, period. I think the chances of Jon coming across one white by itself isn't very likely. They usually travel in packs or even in the size of an army. So I would hope if Jon does do this, he would take more than just a few men. So let me know what you guys think about this leaked episode. What do you think about these different parts of it? Does it still seem unrealistic to you guys, or are some of you starting to believe the photos and the reports like I am? Because by the look of the photos, to me, it appears like most of these things are definitely going to take place next season. But I want your guys' thoughts and opinions on it, so comment below. And I want to thank you guys for taking your time out of your day to listen to me. I appreciate your guys' support, all your positive comments. I enjoy keeping the conversation going after I post a video, so thank you guys for that. And I'll see you next time when I post episode 5. Thanks, guys. Bye. Hey, how you doing today, folks? Today's video will be my continuation of the plot leak breakdown, and we are currently on episode 5. So we are nearing the end of the season, so I sort of expect things to start really picking up by now. Because we know Game of Thrones tends to have its most action-packed episodes right before the finale, so we should be seeing them start to set up everything and put characters in position for some sort of battle or attack in this one. And I will start this video like I have done with my others. I will first read the entire episode, then I will go back to the beginning and break each section down as I work my way down. So let's begin. Episode 5, it says, Sam leaves Old Town for Winterfell with Gilly and the baby. Jorah reunites with Dany at Dragonstone after apparently healing his grayscale in Old Town at some point earlier in the season. Jon receives a raven letting him know that Bran and Arya are at Winterfell. Jon, Jorah, and Gendry, not sure how he gets in the mix, set sail to the Wall. They are looking to capture a White, the White Walkers' mindless zombies, in order to prove to the other lords of Westeros and Dany they exist, and to gain support in fighting them. Jorah, Gendry, and Jon spotting on the set, leaving Spain on a boat. This is probably the most compelling evidence for the leak's veracity, as they are such an odd pairing of characters to be mentioned so specifically in the leaks. Jaime and Bronn secretly meet with Tyrion and Davos. Tyrion tries to persuade Jaime to get Cersei to surrender to Dany, but Jaime ignores it. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning and start breaking this stuff down. Says Sam leaves Old Town for Winterfell with Gilly and the baby. So to me, I think this only means one thing. I think it means that Sam has learned everything that he sought out for, so now it's time to get back and show Jon Snow exactly what he has learned and help him prepare for the war against the White Walkers. And personally, I never expected Sam to stay at the Citadel for the amount of time that it truly would take someone to become a maester. Although we know Sam loves books and he loves to learn the history of the Seven Kingdoms, and he also loved Maester Aemon, who always treated Sam like family. So it's not a surprise that Sam would want to follow in his footsteps after he died and become the new Maester of the Night's Watch at Castle Black. But Sam does not have the time to be at the Citadel for years and years to do everything it takes to become one. Everyone knows that time is of the essence, and Sam knows firsthand about what everyone really needs to focus on, that being the war against the Night's King. And I think Sam's main motivation for going to the Citadel was mentioned by him when he and Gilly were traveling to Old Town. Sam said, I want to become a maester to help Jon when the time comes so we will be safe. So I think now that Sam has found the books that he needed, it's time to leave and meet back up with Jon so they can start putting this knowledge to use. And I think Sam figured out how to cure grayscale, which I will talk about shortly. But most importantly, I think he figured out the magic that is needed to create Valyrian steel. Now, only if Sam could find someone that is a blacksmith, especially one that already knows how to reforge Valyrian steel. And I'll get back to that a little bit later. But I think while Sam is at the Citadel, him and Jon will still be in communication, sending ravens back and forth, mostly about Sam's discoveries. And I think once Sam finds the information he is looking for, he's going to notify Jon and tell Jon that he also has Heartsbane, and I think that's when Jon is going to tell him to come on back. And I also think at some point, Davos probably told Jon about Gendry and who he truly is, and that he is this skilled blacksmith, and that he did set him free at Dragonstone and maybe someone they could use in the future. And I think while Jon and Davos are at Dragonstone meeting with Daenerys, I think that's when Jon's going to send Davos to find this Gendry that he has been talking about. That way he can introduce him to Sam, and together they can start making Valyrian steel swords for the war that's to come. And I think in return, Jon or Daenerys could legitimize Gendry and allow him to take control of Storm's End. Because we know that Gendry, while he was living in King's Landing, he was the apprentice for the blacksmith Tobho Mott, I think that's how you pronounce his name, who was a foreigner from the free city of Qohar. And what is that city known for? It's known for its skilled blacksmiths, who have the knowledge of how to reforge Valyrian steel, which is exactly why Tywin Lannister used him to reforge Ned Stark's sword Ice, which he used to create Widow's Wail and Oathkeeper. So not only do I think Gendry learned how to reforge Valyrian steel while working under him, but I think with the information that Sam learned while at the Citadel, I think Sam now knows the magic that is used to create Valyrian steel. So I think Gendry can possibly take any type of castle forged steel and create an endless amount of swords using Sam's learned magic. But I want to move on, and it says Jorah reunites with Dany at Dragonstone, apparently after healing his grayscale. So, like I said in previous videos, if this does take place, then Sam probably meets Jorah and is told he is a Mormont, son of Sam's former Lord Commander at the Night's Watch, and I think upon learning this, Sam will want to help him. I'm sure if Jorah tells Sam he needs cured, that way he can get back to Daenerys, Sam may want to help him because of that too, considering Sam was very fond of Maester Aemon, who was also a Targaryen. Sam may want to help out of respect for Maester Aemon as well. And it also says Jon receives a raven, letting him know that Bran and Arya are at Winterfell. And according to Watchers on the Wall's sources, which have been extremely accurate so far, apparently a Stark reunion does take place next season with Arya, Bran, and Sansa. And personally, I really hope Jon gets to reunite with his family as well. Hopefully when he leaves Dragonstone to go on this expedition north of the Wall, he stops at home first to see his family, and maybe even tell them what he's doing and how dangerous it is. And hopefully, or maybe by then, Bran will have learned more about the Night's King and his powers, and then he can give Jon some advice for when he goes on his mission. Which leads me to the next part where it says Jon, Jorah, and Gendry set sail to the Wall. And they are looking to capture the White in order to prove to the other lords of Westeros and Dany that they do exist, so they can gain support to fight them in the war. It says this is the most compelling evidence for the leaks because these three characters are such an odd couple, just to be mentioned so specifically. And now seeing them in the photos together, I think it must be true. But I'm wondering how the conversation went down that put these three in position to go out on a mission together. I'm thinking Jon wants to take Gendry to meet Sam as well. That way they can start forging Valyrian steel. And maybe Jorah is there during this conversation and says something to Jon like, you know, Sam, that's the guy that cured my grayscale. Let me go with you. The least I can do is help you with this, considering he did save my life. And maybe Jorah even says something to Daenerys like, this is something I have to do. I have shamed my family and was exiled from Westeros by Ned Stark, so let me help his son, which everyone does still think Jon is Ned's son. And then in return, Jon could say, if you do this with me, I will forgive you of your crimes and allow you to live freely in Westeros. I will also take you to Lyanna Mormont, who I have this close relationship with now at this point. And when she learns that you have helped me, I will talk to her about you being forgiven by all the Mormonts, and hopefully the thought of you disgracing the name is forgotten. So let me know what you think about that, how you think that goes down, how Jon, Jorah, and Gendry are the ones setting sail together to go north. Why do you think these three specifically chose to go together? And the last part of episode 5 says Jaime and Bronn secretly meet with Tyrion and Davos. Tyrion tries to persuade Jaime to surrender to Dany, but Jaime ignores it. And it seems likely Jaime is still madly in love with Cersei, so I understand why he would do this. But personally, I wish Jaime would wake up and get the hell away from Cersei. And I know most of you hate Jaime and want him dead, but I actually like him as a character and want to continue to see him on the show. Only I want to see him fighting for the right side, of course. And we have yet to see any photo evidence that this scene takes place, so I'm not even sure that it happens. But looking at this photo with Tyrion and Davos together while they are getting Gendry Makes me think they could have met Jaime and Bronn before they found Gendry. And I would like to see Tyrion and Bronn have a scene together. I always liked that duo. I actually like Tyrion and Bronn better than Jaime and Bronn together, but that's just my opinion. And maybe when Jaime is nearly killed by Daenerys and her dragons, hopefully then he realizes he is fighting for a losing cause, and in a war that he cannot win. So, tell me guys what you think about this episode. How do you see some of this going down? Comment below and let me know your thoughts on all this, please. Thanks for listening, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye. Hey, how you doing today, folks? Today I will continue my breakdown of the plot leak, and we are currently on episode 6 right now, which is the episode right before the finale, so I expect this to be one of the explosive episodes for next season, maybe even the best episode next season. And regardless how some of you feel about the plot leak, I think it's time to start accepting it for what it is, so I'm no longer going to discuss each episode as if it's true or false. I'm just going to break it down as if it's going to happen, at least until something comes out that proves it to be false. And I know some of you don't want to hear that, but to me it all seems like it's going to come true, so I'm going to treat it that way from now on. And if you think the plot leak is fake, then I don't even know why you keep listening to these videos. So I will read the whole episode, then go back and break down each section of it. And I feel like I should mention something because of some of the comments that I've been getting. When I break down one of these episodes, sometimes I will speculate why some of these things may be happening. Do not assume that those are my predictions. When I discuss the plot leak, I throw out some possible scenarios for why these things are taking place. That does not mean I am saying that these things are going to happen this way for a fact. I'm just trying to have fun with this stuff, so you guys should too. And if I feel strongly about something, and if I feel strong about a way something may happen, then I will make an individual prediction video for that topic, as I have done in the past. So when I break down this episode, I will just throw out some ideas out there about why some things may be taking place. Things that I think of as I'm reading it, just to start a discussion with you guys. It doesn't necessarily mean that's how I think it's going to play out. I'm just giving you guys some possibilities. And if you think they sound ridiculous, then you must not be watching the same show as me, because things have been ridiculous on this show for quite some time. So don't take things so seriously all the time. And I'm only talking to like 5 people, not everyone. Most of you know how to have a good time with it, and for that I thank you. I do this because I enjoy it, and I have fun watching this show, and I enjoy talking to you guys. I'm not doing this because I'm making money off of this stuff. So just try to relax and have some fun with it. But anyways, let's begin. Episode 6. Jon arrives at Eastwatch by the Sea, the easternmost Night's Watch castle. Apparently, Tormund had the Brotherhood Without Banners member locked in the jail. The Brotherhood Without Banners were on a mission from the Lord of Light to fight the White Walkers. Jon leads a small force which includes Beric Dondarrion, Thoros of Myr, Tormund Giantsbane, Jorah Mormont, and Gendry, I'll call him Gendry Baratheon. The team is attacked by the Night's King army, including a zombie polar bear which kills Thoros of Myr. They get surrounded on a frozen lake, nearly about to be defeated, but then Dany arrives with her dragons. She flies most of the team back to safety but leaves Jon behind. Apparently, the Night's King is able to kill her dragon Viserion and resurrect it as his own zombie dragon. Jon is almost killed by the encroaching hordes, but then Benjen swoops in to save him. He sends the wounded Jon off on his horse before Benjen is swarmed and presumably killed by the Whites. At some point in the episode, Jon promises to Dany to lay down his title as King in the North if Dany helps them against the White Walkers. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning and start breaking down each section of this stuff. It says Jon arrives at Eastwatch by the Sea. Apparently, Tormund had a member of the Brotherhood Without Banners locked in the jail. The Brotherhood Without Banners were on a mission from the Lord of Light to fight the White Walkers. And first off, I just want to say, thankfully, there are other people out there ready to fight the White Walkers. I don't know what some of you think of the Brotherhood, but at least they are willing to take the fight to them and not just sit around waiting for the White Walkers to attack them. The Brotherhood certainly doesn't have the weapons or manpower to defeat them, but I at least respect them for trying. And at first I thought maybe this was another one of those rogue group of Brotherhood Without Banners, like the one that attacked and slaughtered all the people that the Hound was working with. But since we know Thoros and Beric Dondarrion go with Jon north of the Wall, this must be them. And I wonder if this means Tormund had them locked in the jail at the Night's Watch Castle at Eastwatch by the Sea, or if Tormund is still at Winterfell and has them locked up there. Because the last time we saw Tormund, he was at Winterfell. and the leak has yet to say anything about him until now. So I wonder if Jon told Tormund to meet him there, or if Jon sent men to protect each castle from the White Walkers. Jon must have kept most of his men up north to guard it while he went to speak to Daenerys. So what do you guys think about that? What do you think about Tormund having this guy locked up? I wonder if Tormund would have locked one of the Brotherhood Without Banners members up. Do you think they were trying to steal weapons or food or horses from the Night's Watch for their mission? Or do you think it's possible Arya could have told everyone up there about Beric and Thoros selling Gendry off to Melisandre to be sacrificed? Or maybe Tormund just didn't want them crossing the wall yet and they refused to wait, so he locked one of them up. And maybe when Jon gets there, he offers to free him, if he goes on his mission with them north of the wall. So let me know how you guys see that playing out. But let's move on. It says, Jon leads a small force which includes Beric Dondarrion, Thoros Emir, Tormund Giantsbane, Jorah Mormont, and Gendry Baratheon. The team is attacked by the Night's King army, including a zombie polar bear, which kills Thoros Emir. And trust me, I know Gendry's last name isn't Baratheon, but that's just what I'm going to call him. It says they get surrounded on a frozen lake, nearly about to be defeated, but then Dany arrives with her dragons. She flies most of the team back to safety, but leaves Jon behind. Apparently, the Night's King is able to kill her dragon Viserion and resurrect it as his own zombie dragon. Now, personally, I think this is going to be insane. I know most of you hate this scene, but I can't freaking wait to see a zombie dragon. This is definitely going to change things in the show, and change the power dynamic. And I'm still wondering why Jon chose such an odd group to go with him. I really don't care why. I like all these characters regardless, and I think it's going to be fun to hear the dialogue between them all. But I'm just curious as to why he chose these people to go with him. I'm really curious about that. I definitely understand why he would take Tormund. In my opinion, he's Jon's toughest soldier, and certainly the most experienced north of the wall. Tormund should know his way around up there and be able to help them stay under the radar as they move around, trying to find these whites. And I feel like this could be the Night's King setting a trap. I think he may know Jon's coming, and he leaves some bait out for him, then pounces at the right moment. Only he isn't going to expect 3 big-ass dragons to show up. And I can't wait to see the look on Jon's face when he sees the Night's King again. Because if you remember at Hardhome, they had that epic stare down. And when I first saw that scene, I knew that there'd be some payoff from that scene at some point later on. So I definitely think we're really going to see that. And if you thought Jon looked stunned when the Night's King raised the dead at Hardhome, wait until they see him take over this dragon. I think they're going to shit their pants. But what I'm really curious is, I wonder how Dany is going to react when she loses one of her babies. Dany might say, screw the Iron Throne for now. I want to kill this son of a bitch that took my dragon. And Jon, I'm sorry for doubting you, but now let's regroup and get all of our forces together and kill this bastard. I may never get Viserion back, but it's time to make a statement, and anyone that comes from me or my dragons will feel my wrath. When Dany loses her dragon, I expect her to be ready to retaliate with her full force, and I think it should be pretty damn epic when that finally does happen. I think that episode could cost like $50 million, and it'd be worth every penny. But I wonder why she rescues everyone but leaves Jon behind. I know Jon would be the sole reason why she'd want to go and see what the hell's going on north of the wall anyway, so I'm wondering what makes her leave him there. I'm thinking he must be surrounded on this lake by all the whites, and there's no way for her to torch all of them without killing Jon, who's probably going to be in the middle of all these whites. Because it says Jon is almost killed, but Benjen swoops in to save him. Then he puts Jon on his horse so he can escape, but Benjen gets swarmed and presumably killed by the whites. I think if this does happen, I still think we are going to see Uncle Benjen again in the show, but next time he's going to be a 100% white. And we may even see a scene to where Jon or one of the Starks have to kill Uncle Benjen, even though they won't want to, but they're going to have to. And I wonder how Jon gets the white out of there. Like, when he captures this white, how's he plan on getting it back south of the wall? Because I doubt one of Dany's dragons are going to allow one of these whites to get on its back. But for some reason, I've just been picturing Jon tying this white up and just dragging it behind the horse. But give me your guys' thoughts on that. And the last part of this episode says Jon promises to Dany to lay down his title as King of the North if she helps fight against the White Walkers. I'm thinking this happens early in the episode. I'm thinking Jon offers to lay down his title, but Dany is probably still not sure whether to believe the threat or not. But sometime after Jon leaves for the Wall, that's probably when she realizes, well, if he is willing to give up his title, he must be pretty damn serious about this. And that's probably when she decides to go help and shows up just in time. And I only say that because I doubt Jon would still have to beg for help after she loses a dragon. I think there'd be no reason to try and convince her after that. Unless, of course, Dany is scared to lose more dragons. Then maybe he'd have to still try and convince her. But I think once she loses a dragon, she's going to be pretty damn pissed and ready to go to war. So give me your thoughts on this episode, please. Why do you think Tormund had to lock up one of the Brotherhood Without Banner members? Why do you think Jon goes on his mission with this specific team? And how do you think the Night's King is able to get the dragon? Like, what type of power move do you think he makes to take it out of the sky? Like, that's what I'm really curious about. And do you think we're going to see Uncle Benjen again? If he does get attacked and swarmed by the Whites, do you think we'll see him again later on as a full White? Let me know what you guys think about this stuff. And I appreciate you guys for listening, as always, the loyal supporters who's always watching every video. Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate that. And I will see you next time. Bye. And we are now at episode 7, which is the season 7 finale. So let's read through this episode, then start breaking this stuff down. Alright, episode 7. Sansa sentences Littlefinger to death, which Arya carries out. Sometime earlier in the season, Littlefinger attempted to pit Arya and Sansa against each other by using an old letter Sansa wrote under duress by the Lannisters to Robb Stark. Bran helps Sansa see through Littlefinger's ploy. Cersei wakes up in a bed soaked with blood, presumably from a miscarriage. At some point earlier in the season, there was a plot thread where Cersei finds out she is pregnant with Jaime's child. Sam and Bran figure out Jon's parentage, that he is the son of Lyanna Stark and Rhaegar Targaryen, and that his real name is Aegon, and he was legitimized at birth. He is not a bastard. Jon and Dany have sex on a boat headed north, and at the end of the episode, the wall falls. The Night's King attacks it with the zombie dragon Viserion, and he's able to knock it down. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning and start breaking down each section of this episode. Okay, at the beginning it says, Sansa sentences Littlefinger to death. Arya then carries it out. Sometime earlier in the season, Littlefinger attempted to pit Arya and Sansa against each other by using the old letter Sansa wrote under duress by the Lannisters to Robb Stark. And Bran helps Sansa see through Littlefinger's ploy. So just to remind a few of you about that letter, this was when the Lannisters actually had Ned Stark locked up, and this was when Robb Stark was beginning to rebel because he knew that his father was right and that Joffrey wasn't the next heir to the throne. So Cersei basically forced Sansa to write her brother Robb and tell him to stand down and swear fealty to Joffrey. Cersei said this would help save her father from being executed. So Sansa, of course, wrote the letter. She really didn't have much of a choice at this point. I know the Lannisters needed one of the Stark girls to basically take control of the North, but I think if Sansa refused to write this letter, Cersei or Joffrey probably would have had her killed. As evil as those two are, I could have seen them taking her out. So more than likely, Littlefinger will do what he does best, and that's sneak behind Sansa's back and probably start to whisper in Arya's ear, making her question Sansa's loyalty to the Stark family. Which is kind of ridiculous. Sansa did just help save Jon's life at the Battle of the Bastards, so she obviously loves her family. But there could be a chance that Littlefinger could even know that Sansa wasn't too worried about saving Rickon. But it's obvious Sansa knew what type of person Ramsay was. He was never going to let Rickon get out alive. But you know how Littlefinger is. He can twist the perception any way he wants. That's what he's the best at. But you think when Arya was the cupbearer for Tywin Lannister, she saw Littlefinger talking to Tywin. So she knew that Littlefinger was secretly working for and supporting the Lannisters. So I'd be surprised if she would even consider anything Littlefinger would say. I would think as soon as Arya saw him again, she would have to question his true intentions. But that's how Littlefinger is so great. Whenever he is up against the ropes or backed into a corner, he can always talk his way out of it. He is literally a silver-tongued devil. And as much as I love the Starks and want to see him dead for what he has done to them, I will miss his character on the show. I think he had such an interesting dynamic to the show. But in the end, all men must die. And come season 8, the show won't have much use for its political characters anymore. I think the world is going to be at war with the White Walkers, and they do not seem to want to negotiate. So if you're not a character on the battlefield, I could easily see the show want to start killing off these characters. Littlefinger is probably a first, or at the very least a second tier character, so I'm sure he makes a significant amount of money per episode, money that the show will need for CGI in Season 8. I expect the battles in Season 8 to be like nothing we've ever seen before in television history, so if you're a character just sitting on the sidelines, I won't be surprised to see them go. Because we know the battles in Season 8 are going to be literally epic. All the forces are going to be together. There's probably going to be thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of whites. All the White Walkers. The dragons are going to be fighting the White Walkers. That's going to cost a lot of money. So I think if you're a character that's on the sidelines or behind the scenes, they're probably not going to want to pay you that money to just kind of sit around. But that's just my opinion. I really don't know. But I must say, I would prefer to see Sansa be the one to execute Littlefinger. Her father always said the man that passes the sentence should swing the sword, and I'd love to see her honor her father's words. And plus, considering all the shit Littlefinger has done to Sansa, it would be very fitting and satisfying to see her be the one to take him out. But we know Arya is the killer between the two, and she's going to be chopping at the bit to kill someone that is doing her or her family wrong, so it'll be just as cool to see her do it. And we know Tyrion said Sansa is not a killer, but he said not yet. So I actually do think we are going to see her personally kill someone at some point in the show. At least I hope so. She's been dragged through the mud and treated like shit for a very long time, so I think she's due to take somebody out. But anyway, let's move on. Next it says, Cersei wakes up in a bed soaked with blood, presumably from a miscarriage. At some point earlier in the season, there is a plot thread where Cersei finds out she is pregnant with Jaime's child. Now, I really don't know what to say about this. I understand Cersei wanting an heir to the throne, but I don't know what purpose it shows with them showing her having a miscarriage. I don't know what the point of that is. So if any of you know what point this serves to the current story on the show, please let me know because I really don't get it. So I'm just going to move right past this part. And next it says Sam and Bran somehow figure out Jon's parentage and that he is the son of Lyanna Stark and Rhaegar Targaryen. His real name is Aegon and was legitimized at birth. Now I'm very confused by this. I'm not sure why it would say Bran somehow figured out Jon's parentage too, as if he is just now learning this. I think Bran should already know this. We know in the Tower of Joy scene, Bran clearly said, "That's my Aunt Lyanna." So he has to know that was the baby that his dad brought home from the war, Lyanna's baby, who was Jon Snow. So Bran should already know the story that Sansa knew too. If you remember when Sansa and Littlefinger was down in the crypts, Sansa said that Rhaegar abducted Lyanna. So if I was I don't know why I keep saying Sam. If I was Bran, wouldn't you put two and two together and be like, okay, that's my Aunt Lyanna right there having a baby boy. And there's my father taking that baby. So the son that my father brought home from the war, that is Jon Snow, was obviously Lyanna's baby. And my dad didn't cheat on my mom. So who was Lyanna with at the Tower of Joy? What is the story I've heard my whole life about Lyanna? She was taken and abducted by Rhaegar Targaryen. So Bran should assume that has to be Rhaegar's son as well. So I'm not sure why it says Bran is just now figuring this out as well. But it is interesting to see that Sam may have found out. Do you think that means he read it somewhere? Like maybe he found a hidden marriage certificate or birth certificate somewhere? Or some kind of record? Personally, I believe Jon is legitimate. I don't know about his name being Aegon. I don't think that's his name. I really don't have much evidence for me to provide you guys with, but I just believe that he's legitimate. It's something I've felt for a very long time, and I know you guys have a lot of good reasons for why Jon is still a bastard. They're very good points, but I still just believe this deep down. It's something that I already made a video about, which most of you commented on, and a lot of you disagreed with, but that's alright. I think at some point in the future, we are definitely going to find this out. Whether this part of the leak is true or not, I don't know. But I think later on in the books, George is going to break all this down for us. But that's just my opinion, and it's something I hope he does. But it sounds like they're saying Sam and Bran find this out together. So this must be at Winterfell, don't you think? Because we know that Bran is heading to Winterfell, and according to this plot leak, it says Sam heads back to Winterfell too. So I'm assuming if they found this out together, it has to be at Winterfell. And where do you think they could find something like this out at Winterfell? It'd have to be down in the crypts. I think something is down there, something very big, something important has to be down there. And I really can't wait to find out. I hope this part does come true because I really want to see what's going on down in those crypts. So, what do you guys think he could have found down there? Tell me in the comments how you think this possibly worked out. But also in this episode it says that Jon and Dany have sex on a boat. So tell me what you guys think about this. Are you cool with Jon having sex with his aunt? I know the Targaryens have done this before. That's not really what I'm asking you guys. But do you guys actually want to see these two together in a relationship? I'm sure the showrunners want this. I think social media would explode into a frenzy if this happened. They've been building towards this for a very long time. These are the two biggest characters in television right now. So it probably will happen. But how much longer do you actually expect Daenerys to live? This is the season 7 finale. Do you guys actually see her living all the way to the end of the show, to the very last episode of the entire series? I don't think she's going to live to see the end. Do you guys? I think one way or another, Dany's probably going to end up dying. But anyways, the last part of this episode says the wall is going to fall at the end. The Night's King is going to attack it with zombie Viserion, and they're going to be able to knock it down. I think at this point in the show, this has to happen. For the story to come to this major climax, the others are going to have to get south in order to pose the biggest threat that has been talked about for most of this series. And when the Night's King and his army get through the wall, I think shit is going to get crazy. I think the intensity level on the show is going to rise about 1,000 degrees. There's going to be no more magical barrier to protect the realm. So everyone's going to have to start uniting and joining their forces. You guys know how the saying goes, you're going to have to stand together or divided you're going to fall. So they better start getting their shit together. But I can't wait to see these battles, and ultimately, probably the greatest war to ever be displayed on a television screen. I think the very final battle is going to be something epic. I hope they spend $50 million on that last battle. I just want it to be mind-blowing. But I guess if this is true, then Bran's mark is not going to be the thing that allows the others to cross south of the wall. So that's kind of interesting. It kind of felt like that was the whole point of them doing that. I didn't think they showed Bran get that mark just so they can get into the cave, unless it was just for them to do the Hodor scene. But I felt like that mark was going to end up playing out for something bigger. I was kind of hoping not. I made a video about that as well. I didn't think Bran was going to be the one to bring down the wall. But it definitely seemed like that was the direction they were heading in. But I just kind of hoped it wasn't going to be Bran's fault. But do you guys really think we're going to see a zombie dragon? Personally, I know I want to see one. I think it would be cool as hell. Could you imagine seeing the Night's King riding on its back, flying over top of Winterfell with a 1,000,000-man zombie army marching below him? I think that would be absolutely terrifying. So tell me what you guys think of this alleged finale. What do you guys like or dislike about all this? Do you think it's true? Do you think it's false? Give me your guys' thoughts on everything, and let's discuss it in the comments like we usually do. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the support. Thanks for sticking around. I appreciate every one of you guys for being here, for watching it, and discussing this with me. So, thanks a lot, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.